A lot of times in marketing, you can do extremely well without killing it, but by addressing what's not working quickly and cutting it off, knowing what it is. And so the tools that are available to us now, if you've got a pretty well organized tech stack and a good analytic framework for decisions, for the most part, what's going to happen is you'll definitely get greater yields from an optimization standpoint. But in my opinion, the biggest savings will turn out to be in two areas. One, people are not going to be thrilled with, and the other one, I think, makes some sense. We talked about anomaly detection around what doesn't work. I think the area that people won't be as happy with is because of the extensive automation that's already in market and what's coming. We just don't need as many bodies as we probably did previously.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. I wear a bunch of other hats concurrently, including running the Did It, a digital marketing agency that started as two different SaaS platforms way back in 1996 and then 1999. Own a brand, Truth Nutrition, run a nonprofit, bunch of other things as well. Super excited to have Bill Lederer on the podcast today because he's been through quite the journey. I was wearing the marketing or advertising hat. And in order to provide context for our conversation around your evolution into this marketing decision intelligence world, why don't you give people a Reader's Digest version of where it started from the art world all the way through to agencies and now to with Madtech.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good to join you, and it's fun. The two of us have known each other a long time. Lots of chapters in this industry together. So I think to begin with, I came to digital in a circuitous path. Started on Wall Street as a quant. Watched what one of my peers was doing in the world of books. When Bezos went out to Seattle and started to sell books, I said to my wife, "Oh my God, I think I know what this is. I have a sense of what this is going to be." And I can't imagine turning 70, looking back and saying I missed it. And she said, "Well, you're already running another business. What are you proposing?" And I said, "Well, I think I can run that business maybe and also do this other thing." So I picked a different category as an e-commerce merchant selling prints and posters on the internet. Founded a business called art.com, built it a long time ago, had some success with it, sold it to Getty Images, and out of a total lack of imagination, I have not been able to figure out how to be in a different industry. I have been in digital media and marketing now for 27 years, I think. So, Kevin, I guess we just don't know any better, do we?
No, I guess not. But we changed the flavors of the industry that we work in, and so you changed flavors along the way and have arrived at a much more tech-centric area than you had at other points, where it was sort of more marked up labor. So I'd love to hear the catalyst for the most recent. I wouldn't really call it a pivot; it's more of an evolution into Madtech.ai.
Sure. Well, thank you for asking. So, Madtech.ai, for those that are not familiar, is a platform that specializes in marketing decision intelligence. And for me, I think it's a pretty natural evolution. I'm somebody who came to e-commerce without any prior background, without books to read or classes to take, or really even much in the way of tools that were available. And I have been building, learning, adapting in order to try to make better decisions. And that's been true kind of without regard to the seat that I've been in all these years, whether it's on the buy side or the sell side or agency, enablers, data and tech. It's always been around the same sets of issues around trying to make better decisions. And there has literally never been a better time to be in that space if you're really interested in ferreting out the data and what might be available in first, second, and third party data in order to be able to make better decisions faster and hopefully with maybe less friction along the way. And a few years ago, in a business that I've been running for a long time called iSocrates, it's a business where we have been both buy side and sell side, helping a variety of mid-sized to larger companies around the world, specifically in media and marketing, and began to automate. And the years of automation for our own business and helping our clients naturally resulted in leveraging the cloud and AI. I wish I could say this has been a recent thing, but it really hasn't. We basically have ripped up and gone through now three full generations of architecture and technology within AI, applying it to our own business, and now making it available to our clients and our friends and our business partners. So that's Madtech.ai. And happy to talk to you more about marketing decision intelligence. We think it's a really great emerging space.
So you and I are of the generation of digital marketers where we probably, or at least I remember, what UTM stands for, Urchin Tracking Module, because Urchin was the precursor to Google Analytics. And analytics has been around a long time, but I've always said to clients when I'm wearing the Did It hat, or internal peers when wearing the e-commerce hat like Truth Nutrition, that analytics is great, but it's sort of like looking in the rear view mirror and trying to drive the car. It really is not 100% useful in steering the car, because what's behind you doesn't perfectly predict what's ahead of you. And so, the entire ecosystem has been moving towards sort of the nirvana of being able to use data in as close to real time so that you can actually steer the car off of the data streams that you're seeing and make better decisions. So, when did you have this epiphany that you realized, like, I think I can get good enough quality data freshly enough where we can actually make use of it in close to real time?
I think that that epiphany, I don't know if a Jewish guy gets to have an epiphany, but I think that lightning bolt for me happened really pretty much at the outset of programmatic. I would say looking at the unsold inventory, the auctions, the ability to step in there and to be able to bid or to sell. I think that was really for me. I was at WPP at the time, and working for WPP and for Kantar, and I said, "Okay, I got what this is. This is a entirely new thing." But it really wasn't until the combination of the advent of both the cloud, auction-based real-time bidding, and then the availability of AI tools that are extremely inexpensive and can be very helpful and constantly innovating. So I think we live in a period of time where you've got a series of these things coming together. Since I had a background previously for a long time in finding, building, leveraging signals for trading purposes, going back to the earliest days coming out of college and working on Wall Street. For me, this has been a really helpful thing. You mentioned marketing analytics, critically important, but many times marketing analytics tells us, not only does it tell us historically or present, but it tells us what's nice to know and not necessarily what we need to know. So there's a lot of data that's available to us. I'm really principally focused on decisions, better decisions, learning, predicting, prescribing, being able to take advantage of opportunity. And sometimes it's a negative thing. A lot of times in marketing, things aren't working. And so what we want to do is to find out what's not working, overbuy, underbuy, not making KPIs, data discontinuity when we simply lose access to the data that we need. If we can know more sooner, I'm hopeful that this is going to be a little bit like my weekend tennis. So I'm not a very good tennis player. I'm sort of, in a way, I'm a perfectly not good tennis player in that I sit somewhere in the normal curve between not in the tails. I'm not in the worst 5%, and I'm certainly not in the best 5%. And most of the time in my weekend tennis, I figure if I can get the ball over, keep it in, the other person's going to kind of mess up. I don't have to hit a lot of winners, but I need to be consistent and keep the ball in play. A lot of times in marketing, you can do extremely well without killing it, but by addressing what's not working quickly and cutting it off, knowing what it is. And so the tools that are available to us now, if you've got a pretty well organized tech stack and a good analytic framework for decisions, for the most part, what's going to happen is you'll definitely get greater yields from an optimization standpoint. But in my opinion, the biggest savings will turn out to be in two areas. One, people are not going to be thrilled with, and the other one, I think, makes some sense. We talked about anomaly detection around what doesn't work. I think the area that people won't be as happy with is because of the extensive automation that's already in market and what's coming. We just don't need as many bodies as we probably did previously, and we need them trained a bit differently. So that I know is, a lot of people aren't going to be fans of, but I think that's where we're going, and it's getting there pretty quickly. In our own business, we're working with half as many people as we used to because of the automation, and I suspect there's probably more to come in that area.
So one of the challenges that CDPs, who have sort of the first half of your equation of collecting the information, have had is missing data, bad data, and then not knowing what to do with the data. So how have you addressed those pieces or those challenges to CDPs? Because I've seen so many CDPs poorly executed, and then due to bad data, or missing data. And then, of course, not knowing what to do with it once you have it, assuming you have accurate data and all the right data in there, you still need to know what to do with it.
Kevin, as you know, since you and I have been at this for so long, we've been working in an industry where there's a lot of overpromise and under delivery, and where things take longer and they're going to cost more than what we're being told, right? This is the story of our careers. So I think that's true for CDPs. For those that are not familiar with it, it's customer data platforms, which have basically the latest version of CRMs, or customer relationship management systems. So the idea was, if you could combine non-personally identifiable data from DMPs with personally identifiable data from CRMs, and you put them together, that's the CDP. And then somehow magically, now that we have the full identity of the audience, and we can connect to the various execution platforms in the different channels, we're done. That's perfection. Well, I would argue that what we have is something that's a little bit like the Tin Man. We've got arms and legs, but the brain, it's pretty underdeveloped for the nature of the challenges that the typical marketer or their agency has. And I think that's true for publishers on the supply side as well. Publishers, data tech providers. We have a situation where historically, with marketing analytics, we have analytics that are highly distributed, that are solving different pieces of the problem, usually doing so at the product or platform level, but not in a holistic way, able to bring all of the things that you need together in one place, and in a way that's going to be easy to consume for whoever the stakeholders are that are working with this data. So the starting point for all of this is you have bad data, no data, insufficient data, discontinuous data, unusable data, siloed data, disconnected data. It's pretty hard to have pretty good decisions. So the starting point for all of this is in an area that's not very exciting, but it's very important. It's the digital plumbing. It's getting the data right, and then being able to transform that data, getting exactly what you need in the right shape to be able to do something with it. And anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole complexity of it, but the CDPs are probably not in the world's best shape to be able to resolve the decision making. They are helpful when it comes to managing records and being able to create the unification of identity. And they can be used for planning and orchestration, but decision making, it's just a little bit complicated. So I think this is an area where the CDPs are falling short right now. Think of this as just we're in a chapter in a longer book about CDPs. But in all likelihood, over time, I think we're going to find that there's a new category within marketing analytics that's separate from a CDP. It's called marketing decision intelligence, and it sits at the top of the tech stack. And the goal of the decision intelligence system, specifically marketing, is to bring everything together to make the best possible decisions, to process that data just the same way that our brains do. One unified place, just like the cerebellum and the cortex, processing the data that is coming in, synthesizing, getting to a decision, and then issuing instructions so that that work can be executed from a campaign standpoint, or could be at a channel level, could be creative, could be very, very specific, one-to-one. And then the idea is to read the entrails. Let's get back in real time or as close to real time as possible what those results are and say, how does this compare to our original plan? How does it fit against our goals and objectives? And if it turns out for whatever reason things aren't working, let's know about them immediately, be alerted to them so that we can do something about them, increase our total visibility to the problem. And I don't think today, as I look at the ecosystem, I don't think the traditional BI tools, business intelligence tools, or the marketing analytics packages that exist, the CDPs, I don't think any of this is set up for optimal decision making. And so you can take this with a grain of salt because I'm sort of investing what is probably the rest of my career in this. But I think there's a pretty big opportunity specifically in this focused niche called marketing decision intelligence.
Those are all great points. Thanks so much. I was thinking as you made the Tin Man analogy, Tin Man's actually missing the heart, and it's the scarecrow who's missing the brain.
Thank
But
you for letting me know that.
But let's use that as a segue.
Kevin, I just want you to know I'm just not that old. Perhaps you remember that from your youth. It's not as fresh for me. Just teasing.
Yeah. So I'm over 60 at the moment. So, but I will use that as a great segue because, marketing is about emotion, right? Which is what the Tin Man was in fact missing, whereas the Scarecrow was missing the brain. And you sort of need both. And that intersection exists in creative, right? It's a big piece of the equation, right target audience, right message, right time. Well, it needs to be the right message. And that's usually a heart related thing, right? It has to trigger the emotions. And I know that the big platforms, certainly Meta and Google, have sort of announced that they're going to you should let them, write them the check, give them the Amex, and just let them run with it as it relates to the creative side and the targeting side. And of course, that makes a lot of people nervous, particularly when the percentage of their media budgets that are going to these two platforms in particular is so gigantic. Amazon hasn't, to my knowledge, jumped on board to say, oh, we'll also, we also just need carte blanche. Give us your Amex. But it's in that general direction as it relates to, in particular, the targeting side of things. So I'd love to get your thoughts on that creative side. Like, where does the, tugging of the heartstrings of the consumer or B2B marketer, evaluating platforms, evaluating decisions across brands, where does that fit into the decision intelligence world?
Sure. So Kevin and I have been at this for so long that back when we started, there was database marketing, and database marketing used to tell us that the fundamentals were things like the list, that's your audience, what's your offer, what's your creative, and I would say thus far in the world of marketing, we're doing a better and better job of audience. It's really getting almost obscene the extent to which we can identify specific people, households, and devices, and across channel. And we're getting better and better at knowing what's the right price we can afford to pay for things in order to meet our objectives. But when it comes to creative, we haven't done as good a job there. So I think the first thing is it possible to know what creative effectiveness is and to be able to disaggregate the elements of creative, to be able to say, well, what is it that's not working? What is working? I think the first thing you mentioned is that increasingly the major my words, not yours, but the major walled gardens are developing automated creative solutions that we should rely on from them. I think the first thing I would say is one of the big lessons of working in this industry is trust but verify. There's an awful lot that those walled gardens would be pleased to do for you. And unless you're paying very close attention, you may not be happy with the ultimate results that you get. So when it comes to the creative, I think it's important for us to be able to measure that and to be able to look at that side by side with things that are just as important. Marketing mix model, multi-touch attribution, incrementality measurement. What's your incremental return on the investment that you're making? Causality. Does any of this matter statistically? Is anything really making a difference? There are plenty of other models that are important, but I wanted to call out specifically, to me, creative effectiveness is not an art. It's a science. Creativity is an art. But the measurement of being able to break down what's going on, Kevin, the challenge for us is that we do not yet have a fully automated ability to do creative effectiveness with a machine. It's possible that a machine can create something creative, but for measurement, we're still going to wind up with a mixture of machines and men. As an example, we need some metadata taking a look at how do we think about the elements. What's the nature of the offer? Is there a coupon present? Some kind of an incentive. What kind of incentive is it? Is it dollars off or cents off? Is it a percentage? Buy one, get one free? What's that? What's the nature of that? The pricing, the context of where the advertising is being run. With regard to the creative, this is something where I can tell you in the case of Madtech, we've built a very extensive creative effectiveness modeling capability that we build into our solution. But in truth, we still need humans to be able to say, what kind of campaign, what was the objective of this campaign, right? Is this a branding campaign, or was this supposed to be a new product launch where we're going to take a look at actually moving units off the store shelf? So it's not just the creative. What's the full context of the choices that are being made? What's the sequencing? Very often what happens with programmatic is, Kevin, is we're doing such a good job at targeting the person that we're burning out the creative. I can tell you in the last 11 years of running this business, generally our clients don't give us enough creative to work with.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's one of my pet peeves, and I even started a nonprofit to try to fix it, is the fact that in the unsold ad inventory that ends up showing PSAs, the creative is sometimes dozens of years old, right? If you see something, say something, or Smokey the Bear, and it's a real waste, right? So I want to try to recapture. I've got Giving Forward teams working on trying to create creative that's cause agnostic, but then the landing pages is where the causes end up being merchandised based on data that we have. And, it's that same fixation that I have on the importance of creative is something that ripples through into advice I give clients, which is if your creative is bad, you can't afford the media. You're in an auction, right? So if you have bad creative and you don't see the results from that creative, your ability to bid, whether it's social, programmatic, search, your ability to bid is directly proportional to the effectiveness of your creative. And so that's usually a light bulb that goes on with them, like, oh, I guess it is really important for us to keep the creative effective, fresh, make sure we don't have burnout, et cetera.
One of the comments here that I wanted to share with you is I think of the job that all of us have is this trade-off between efficiency and effectiveness. There's no such thing as a perfect combination of the two. We aim for it, but it's hard to sustain it.
Sure.
Many of these tools will result in greater efficiency. But what we're talking about in this case is effectiveness.
Yeah.
And there is a trade-off there. And I would encourage anybody that's listening that has some influence or decision-making responsibility with these budgets to think about reinvesting some of the dividends that are being generated out of the efficiency and reinvest some of that back into effectiveness. So those creatives, they they need you to take some chances in the same way that we would encourage you to have test and learn, to have a percentage of your budget available there to try things, knowing that you may well fail. Creative is one of those areas that you should be investing in, and some of that money can and should come out of what you're doing on the efficiency side of the equation. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, you're reminding me of a statement that the director of media. My first job out of grad school was at McCann Erickson, and I was trying to be a sponge and absorb everything from everybody that I could. And I was chatting with one of the senior directors of media and asking him about media decision uh, frameworks. Right? That he basically said something. He said, at the right price, I'll buy just about any media. Right, which leads you to the because he was trying to explain to me about waste factors against your target audience, right? Okay, Super Bowl ad, probably high waste factor against the big chunk of the audience, but certainly brings a lot of tonnage to the equation, right? And then we started getting into soap operas and drive time radio and all the other various types of targeting he had at the time. This is pre-digital, and he was basically walking me through this idea. We just have to take what's in the strategic brief, what's in the media brief from the audience perspective, and overlay it on top of the price of that media, because he said, if I get it cheap enough, it's going to suddenly be a contender. And we now live in this world where a big chunk of the audiences are addressable, right? And to your point about taking some chances, sometimes there might be segments of your audience you didn't think about that actually resonate pretty well with your brand and with your offer and with your creative. And if you never
Yeah,
test them, you never find that out.
I totally 100% agree with you. Very often, the customers and potential customers are not who marketers think they are. They swear, no, I know who my ideal customer is. I know who my audience is. And I can't even tell you how many times over the course of a career there has been this major aha moment. Oh, I, I didn't know they were buying, or I didn't realize that we could also get to that audience. I had an experience a few years ago, extremely powerful experience where the Hispanic audience was fairly small for this particular customer, and they had written it off. There was nothing special going on, but um, we decided that maybe a larger share of the budget ought to go to Spanish language, specifically mobile, specifically targeting grandparents for a particular opportunity, and it was not on the plan. I threw it. I called an audible, and I said, "We're going to give this a shot." Well, it turned out that that audience became about 15% of the national customer base for that customer, and it happened very quickly. And they had no real comprehension of what was happening, and very quickly it became, wow, like how did this happen?
Sure.
And I would encourage everyone, please, when you think that you have figured out all the answers, you have completely nailed the genome for your offering. You know this customer base extremely well. This is a great industry where just when you think you have all of the answers, things will come along and surprise you. And had a very specific experience with a major bakery company we all know, where it turns out they had a hidden market that they never really fully identified or appreciated. It was people who were celiacs. They were allergic to gluten. They had no non-gluten products, zero, none. Did not show up on the list of customers. When they analyzed their customers, they didn't have anybody that was identified as having a gluten allergy because they weren't selling gluten-free products. There was
Yeah.
a whole nother 10% of the entire national audience for them available. So they built one gluten-free product and it did extremely well. And they said, yep, okay, that's a new segment for us. Anyway, I think the whole purpose of the discussion around decision making is sometimes it's The information's there, but it's hard to get at, and it's not necessarily intuitively obvious.
Yeah.
There are tools out there to help us in creative effectiveness, in audience, in pricing, in channel. Very often, maybe you're not doing anything in a channel, or it's the weight is so low, it's really not showing up. And one of the things that I'm after with marketing decision intelligence is to get to benchmarking and collective intelligence to be able to use AI not only based on your own experience, but to be able to pull in data from other similar businesses on an aggregated, anonymized basis to help you better inform your choice, not just out of your experience, but the totality of perhaps other people in your industry, totally aggregated and anonymized. So I wanted to share that that's something that I think AI brings to us, and it's going to be a big part of the future of the industry, I believe.
For sure. Final question. So what else should marketers be thinking about for the next 6 months to a year that isn't on their radar now?
Well, in that period of time, what are the tasks that can be automated? We live in a tough economic period from the standpoint of having any predictability. And it's probably not going to get a hell of a lot better soon. So, what is it that we can do without throwing more labor at the problem? What can we do where we're not compromising in what we expect from performance? And some of those things, as an example, I think there's too much money being expended on things like data engineering, data warehouses, basic reporting and analytics. Too much labor, taking too long, costing too much. I think you're going to see more and more of that automated for good reason, I think. And that's probably something that we're going to see sooner than later in each of those areas.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and brainstorming. We'll look forward to keeping track of Madtech as it evolves and as you improve the platform even further.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.